An economy based on natural abundance might sound like a page torn from a utopian novel, but what if it wasn't a fantasy? What if it were the very bedrock of a civilization, the fundamental operating system for humanity? For our entire history, one single, brutal fact has driven our societies, our conflicts, our greatest innovations, and our deepest anxieties: scarcity. The idea that there isn't enough to go around. It's the silent engine behind every price tag, every border, every war. So, we asked our AI simulation a deceptively simple question. What if that engine was never built? What if the point of divergence for humanity wasn't a battle or a political decision, but the complete and total elimination of scarcity from the very beginning? Our simulation boots up, and the world it renders is quiet, not empty, but serene. The first thing you notice is the air. It's clean, carrying the scent of damp earth, blooming flora, and something faintly ozonic, the signature of impossibly efficient, clean energy. We're standing in what looks like a city, but not one we would recognize. Buildings that seem grown rather than constructed, made of a bioluminescent wood-like material, spiral towards the sky, draped in vertical gardens overflowing with produce. There are no roads, only lush green pathways. Along these paths, people stroll, occasionally reaching up to pluck a piece of fruit from a branch overhead. There's no transaction, no exchange of currency. A child hands a glistening, pear-like fruit to a stranger, who smiles and continues on their way. This isn't a community garden. This is the entire infrastructure. The AI shows us the underlying network: atmospheric water generators, geothermal energy taps, and automated nutrient delivery systems that work in a closed loop, turning all waste back into resources. It's a perfectly balanced ecosystem, with human society woven into it, not built on top of it. The cascading consequences of this single change, the removal of material need, are staggering. Think about the psychological weight that is instantly lifted. The gnawing anxiety about next month's rent, the stress of a grocery bill, the fear of losing a job, it's all gone. It simply doesn't exist as a concept. Our AI's analysis of the population's cognitive and emotional state shows brain activity patterns devoid of the chronic stress markers so common in our timeline. Without the evolutionary pressure to hoard and compete for survival, the very nature of human ambition has been rewritten. The drive for accumulation, which has defined so much of our history from the first merchants to modern-day billionaires, is seen here as a bizarre, primitive impulse, a historical curiosity. The focus isn't on having, it's on experiencing, contributing, and becoming. The economy isn't a system of exchange. It's a system of distribution, as natural and unquestioned as breathing. This butterfly effect rewrites the very DNA of our culture. In our world, value is defined by rarity. A diamond is valuable because it's hard to find. A luxury car is valuable because few can afford it. Here, in this alternate timeline, that logic is inverted. Since all material goods, food, shelter, energy, even complex tools produced by automated fabricators, are infinitely abundant and accessible, they have no inherent transactional value. They are simply there, like the air. So what then drives progress? What motivates a person to get out of bed in the morning if their survival and comfort are completely guaranteed? This is where our AI simulation reveals a profound pivot in the hierarchy of human needs and desires. When the frantic scramble for material wealth is rendered obsolete, the human spirit doesn't just go idle. It turns inward, and it turns outward, but in a completely different direction. If you can't accumulate things, what becomes the new measure of a person's worth and influence? The answer is as elegant as it is powerful, and it completely reshapes the concept of capital. We're about to explore a society driven by the value of ideas, not accumulation. The value of ideas, not accumulation, becomes the central pillar of this new human civilization. And by the way, if you're enjoying this journey into a world without scarcity, take a quick second to hit that like button. It really helps the simulation run. Now imagine a world where your bank account is irrelevant, but the quality of your thoughts could literally change society. That's the reality our AI is projecting. In our timeline, we have a complicated, often paradoxical relationship with ideas. We celebrate innovation, but we immediately try to lock it down with patents, copyrights, and NDAs. The goal is almost always monetization. An idea's worth is measured by how much money it can generate. Here, that entire framework is gone. The cascading consequences of removing material need have created a society where the only truly scarce resource is human ingenuity. Our simulation visualizes this economy of ideas not as a stock market, but as a vibrant, living ecosystem. Picture a vast, citywide forum, part university campus, part art installation, part collaborative workshop. People gather not in boardrooms, but in open-air amphitheaters and interactive holographic spaces. Here, they don't pitch for funding. They present concepts. A young woman might be detailing a new form of musical expression based on quantum harmonics. An elderly man could be outlining a philosophical treatise on the nature of consciousness in an abundant universe. The air crackles with debate, with constructive criticism, with the electric thrill of collaborative creation. The AI's analysis of these interactions is fascinating. It maps the flow of what it calls conceptual capital. This isn't a currency you can hoard. It's a measure of reputation and influence, earned by contributing meaningful, elegant, or revolutionary ideas to the collective. The more you give, the more you have. This conceptual capital is the engine of progress. When someone proposes a truly compelling idea, say, a plan to build a self-organizing orbital habitat for deep space observation, they don't apply for a grant. Instead, their idea, if it has merit, gains traction in the collective consciousness. It attracts the attention of others, engineers, artists, sociologists, logisticians, who are inspired by the vision and want to be a part of it. Their reward isn't a salary. Their reward is the opportunity to apply their own skills to a project that has meaning, to solve a challenging problem, and to enhance their own conceptual capital in the process. The AI shows us a social network map that looks like a shimmering galaxy. The brightest stars aren't billionaires. They are idea weavers, individuals whose insights have sparked the most significant collaborations and advancements. The butterfly effect is profound. Intellectual property is a nonsensical concept. Hoarding an idea is the fastest way to make it worthless, as its value is realized only through sharing, iteration, and collective execution. This completely rewrites the human experience. Education is no longer a preparatory phase for a career. It's the primary, lifelong activity for everyone. The pursuit of knowledge and skill is the goal itself, because it makes you a more valuable node in the network. Status isn't defined by what you own, but by what you've contributed to the collective understanding and well-being. Think about the psychological freedom. The crushing pressure to sell your creativity is gone. You are free to pursue any thought, any project, any passion, purely for its intrinsic worth and the joy of the process. The simulation shows us art of unimaginable complexity, scientific breakthroughs happening at a dizzying pace, and social structures that are fluid and constantly optimizing, all because the friction of financial motivation has been removed. But this raises a critical question. An idea, no matter how brilliant, is just a starting point. Building that orbital habitat or composing that quantum symphony requires more than just thought. It requires action, labor, and energy. If no one is getting paid, and all basic needs are met, what compels people to actually do the work? The answer lies in a shift from financial transactions to a system that is far more direct and, in many ways, more human. It's a system of energetic exchanges, not financial ones, and it's the invisible force that powers this entire civilization. Let's see how that works. Energetic exchanges, not financial ones, are the lifeblood of this society, and this might be one of the hardest shifts for us to truly wrap our heads around. In our timeline, money is an abstraction. It's a promise, a proxy for value that we've all agreed to honor. but in the process, it has become disconnected from the actual energy, time, and resources it's supposed to represent. This alternate timeline, born from the absence of scarcity, has short-circuited that entire system. Here, the economy is a direct, tangible flow of human energy and intention. The question isn't how much does it cost, but what energy is required and who is inspired to provide it. Our AI simulation visualizes this principle in action, and it's both breathtakingly simple and profoundly complex. Let's go back to that orbital habitat project. The AI renders a project interface, a living holographic blueprint accessible to everyone. It doesn't show a budget in dollars. It shows a quantum of energy needed, a detailed breakdown of person-hours, computational cycles, and material processing requirements. When an engineer decides to contribute, she doesn't clock in. Instead, she links her personal, energetic signature to a specific task. The AI shows us her perspective. As she works, a subtle, glowing filament of light connects her to the larger project schematic. It's a real-time visualization of her contribution. There's a deep, psychological satisfaction in seeing your personal energy literally build a part of the whole, a satisfaction far removed from watching numbers increase in a bank account. The system doesn't track debt or credit in a financial sense. It tracks flow. It's a meritocracy of action. The cascading consequences of this are staggering. Entire industries from our world simply evaporate. Think about it. Without finance, there are no banks, no stock markets, no insurance companies, no predatory lending. Without the need to create artificial desire, the entire advertising industry vanishes. The AI runs a comparative analysis, and the result is jarring. Nearly 40% of the jobs in our modern Western economy are classified by the simulation as transactional or persuasive rather than productive or creative. In this new timeline, all of that human potential, the intellect of quants, the creativity of marketers, the diligence of accountants, is unleashed and redirected. These people are now free to become scientists, artists, explorers, and teachers. The butterfly effect here isn't just a change in career paths. It's a fundamental recalibration of what society considers work. A job is no longer a means to survival. It is an act of purpose. This system is built on a different kind of motivation. It's not driven by the fear of poverty or the greed for accumulation, but by two powerful intrinsic human desires: the pursuit of mastery and the need for belonging. You contribute your energy to the orbital habitat because you are passionate about astrophysics and want to hone your skills on a challenging problem. That's mastery. You also do it because your contribution is visible to the entire community, earning you respect and strengthening your social bonds. That's belonging. The AI's social network maps show that the most connected individuals aren't the ones who have hoarded anything, but the ones who have given the most of their energy to the most impactful projects. Their reward is influence, access to more interesting challenges, and the esteem of their peers. It's a reputation built on doing, not on having. But this raises a fascinating new hierarchy. If everyone's basic needs are met, and the system rewards the effective application of energy, what becomes the ultimate differentiator? It's not just about applying energy randomly. It's about directing it in novel, elegant, and efficient ways. It's about the initial spark of an idea that mobilizes the energy of thousands. This is where the economy of Eden finds its true currency, its most valued and sought-after resource. So how would creativity become the new capital? How creativity would become the new capital is the elegant and inevitable endpoint of this entire system. If pure energy is the fuel that powers this civilization, then creativity is the spark that ignites the engine and the hand that steers the vessel. In our timeline, capital is about accumulation, hoarding resources to leverage power. But in a world without scarcity, that model is meaningless. The new leverage, the ultimate multiplier of the energetic economy, is a single, brilliant idea. It's the one resource that isn't infinite, the the one thing that can't be replicated by a machine, the flash of human insight that reorganizes what's possible. The AI simulation visualizes this concept in a way that's almost spiritual. It renders what it calls the noosphere, a shared mental space visualized as a shimmering holographic galaxy of thought. It's not a marketplace, it's an ecosystem. Let's say a materials scientist has a breakthrough idea for a self-healing biological concrete. She doesn't file a patent. She uploads her core concept, the raw data, her inspiration, her initial napkin sketches into the noosphere. It appears as a single, softly glowing point of light. Our AI shows us what happens next. A structural engineer on another continent sees it, is inspired, and links his own energy to it, adding a simulation of how it could be used to build earthquake-proof foundations. The light brightens and develops a new layer of complexity. Then, a bioarchitect adds a design for a living building that breathes, its walls repairing themselves after stress. The light intensifies again, pulsing, attracting more minds. This is the butterfly effect in its purest form. The initial creator isn't an owner, she's a catalyst. Her reward isn't a royalty check, but the profound satisfaction of watching her spark ignite a supernova of collective genius. This gives rise to a new kind of elite, a fluid and entirely merit-based class of what the simulation calls conceptual catalysts. These individuals are the rock stars of this alternate timeline. They don't live in penthouses guarded by security. Their lives are radically transparent. Their capital is their proven track record of generating transformative ideas. The AI pulls up a social network map, and it's jarring. In our world, the most connected nodes are often billionaires or political leaders, their influence derived from control. Here, the central nodes are poets, philosophers, scientists, and artists whose ideas have successfully mobilized the most collective energy. Their payment is access. The system automatically grants them priority access to the AI's deepest computational resources and connects them with other high-impact catalysts. If your last idea solved planetary weather regulation, your next shower thought is immediately flagged as something the world needs to see. The cascading consequences of this value system completely reshape the foundations of society, starting with how we learn. The AI renders a typical educational environment, and it looks nothing like a school. There are no classrooms, no lectures, no standardized tests. It's a network of discovery labs where children are taught one primary skill: combinatorial creativity. They learn to synthesize disparate fields of knowledge, mixing biology with data science, poetry with engineering. The goal isn't to find the right answer, but to ask a more beautiful question. Failure is not only destigmatized, it's celebrated as an essential part of the creative process. The simulation shows us a vast public archive called the Gallery of Noble Attempts, a stunning virtual museum showcasing the most ambitious and interesting ideas that didn't work. It's a cultural monument to the beauty of the attempt, a testament to a society that values the journey of innovation far more than the safety of the known. The entire cultural DNA has been resequenced to reward intellectual courage. But this vibrant exchange of ideas, this constant flow of inspiration and energetic commitment, can't thrive solely in a digital, abstract space. Human creativity is a contact sport. It feeds on serendipity, on the unplanned conversation in a public square, the shared meal that sparks a new perspective, the energy of 1,000 minds buzzing in close proximity. For the noosphere to reach its full potential, it needs a physical heart, a place where these catalysts and contributors can collide and collaborate. This necessity completely redefines the purpose and design of a city. So, what happens when an entire metropolis is architected not for commerce or defense, but to function as a massive, living engine of co-creation? That's where our simulation takes us next. Cities as centers of sharing and co-creation are the inevitable physical manifestation of this new economy of ideas. In our timeline, cities are monuments to commerce and power. Their skylines are jagged graphs of corporate ambition, their streets are arteries for a relentless flow of capital, and their value is measured in real estate. Our AI simulation erases this blueprint and starts over with a single, radical question. What if a city was designed not to concentrate wealth, but to catalyze creativity? The result is something that feels less like a metropolis and more like a living, breathing organism. The simulation renders a panoramic view, and the first thing that strikes you is the absence of a traditional downtown. There is no financial district, no towering wall of glass and steel. Instead, the city is a decentralized network of vibrant, interconnected hubs, woven seamlessly into the natural landscape. The architecture itself is a product of the creative economy we just explored. Buildings are not static monoliths, but are fluid and adaptive, 3D printed from that self-healing biological concrete. They curve and flow, covered in vertical gardens that clean the air and regulate temperature. The AI zooms in on a residential lab cluster, and you see that the distinction is almost meaningless. Private living pods offer solitude, but they open onto sprawling common areas. Workshops filled with advanced fabrication tools, soundproof studios, communal kitchens, and open-air amphitheaters. It's a design that actively engineers serendipity. You don't commute to work, you simply drift from a moment of private reflection into a space of public collaboration. This redefines the entire concept of ownership and access. The simulation walks us through a day in the life of a citizen. She needs a rare alloy for a kinetic sculpture she's designing. She doesn't go to a store. Instead, she walks to a neighborhood materials hub, a beautiful library-like structure. Inside, there are no cash registers, no price tags. She describes her project to an AI concierge, which instantly cross-references her energy credit balance, a measure of her contributions to the noosphere, and dispenses the required materials from an automated vault. This is the butterfly effect of a post-scarcity world in action. The friction of commerce is gone. The only barrier to creation is the limit of your own imagination and the energy you've invested back into the system. The AI then pivots, showing us the city's, quote, transportation. There are no personal cars congesting the streets. In fact, there are very few streets as we know them. Most travel is done via a silent, automated network of pods that glide along magnetic tracks, or simply by walking along lush, green pathways designed for conversation and chance encounters. The soundscape of the city is transformed. The roar of traffic is replaced by the hum of quiet machinery, the murmur of intellectual debate, the sound of music drifting from an open studio, and the laughter of children in a nearby discovery lab. It's the sound of a civilization at peace with itself, its energy focused on building up, not just getting by. The true heart of this alternate timeline city is the modern agora. The simulation takes us to a vast central plaza, and it's a breathtaking sight. It's not a sterile monument or a tourist trap. It's a dynamic, chaotic, and beautiful epicenter of co-creation. Holographic displays float in the air, visualizing the most exciting projects blossoming in the noosphere, inviting real-time input from anyone passing by. We see a group of bioengineers gathered around an interactive projection, sketching out a new form of bioluminescent lighting for public parks. A poet watches them, inspired, and starts composing verses about their work on a public terminal, her words instantly appearing alongside their technical diagrams, adding a layer of cultural meaning to their scientific endeavor. This is the physical nexus of the creative economy. It's a space where a philosopher's insight can collide with an engineer's problem, where an artist's vision can give a scientist a new perspective. The city isn't just a place where people live, it is an active participant in the creative process, a massive, distributed computer for collective human genius. Every public space is a potential laboratory, every conversation a potential point of divergence for a new idea. Living here would feel profoundly different. The foundational anxieties that shape our lives, rent, mortgages, bills, the daily grind, have been engineered out of existence. The cascading consequences of this are immense. Mental and physical health flourish in an environment free from chronic financial stress. The primary motivation for daily life shifts from survival to self-actualization and contribution. The value of your home isn't its market price, but its proximity to inspiring people and stimulating projects. The entire cultural DNA is rewired around generosity and collaboration because the system itself rewards it. But as we pull back, watching this intricate, harmonious dance of creation and sharing, a fundamental question emerges. This entire system, from the automated resource hubs to the energy grid that powers it all, requires an incredible level of organization and management. In our world, this is the role of complex financial systems and government bureaucracies. Yet, in this utopia of creation, those structures are conspicuously absent. So how is this massive, citywide, and even planet-wide collaboration managed without the institutions we see as essential? What replaces the intricate webs of finance and governance? That's where the simulation reveals perhaps its most shocking and transformative layer: the complete absence of banks, taxes, and exploitation. The absence of banks, taxes, and exploitation is perhaps the most difficult concept for our timeline to grasp, because these institutions are the very bedrock of our social order. They are the architects of our cities, the arbiters of our ambitions, and the source of our deepest anxieties. To imagine a world without them feels like imagining a body without a skeleton. Yet in this simulation, their removal isn't a collapse, it's a liberation. It's the point of divergence where the economy of Eden sheds the last vestiges of our world's original sin: manufactured scarcity and the power it grants. So how on earth does a complex, global civilization function without the mechanisms of capital and control? The AI's answer is as elegant as it is radical. You don't remove them, you make them obsolete. Let's start with banks. In our world, a bank is a gatekeeper of potential. It holds the capital, and you must prove yourself worthy of being granted access, always with interest, always with risk. In this alternate timeline, capital isn't money. It's a combination of creative energy and computational resources. The simulation shows us a young astrophysicist who has a bold idea for a new type of deep space telescope. She doesn't write a business plan or pitch to investors. Instead, she uploads her detailed proposal into the noosphere. It's not reviewed by a loan committee, but by a decentralized AI protocol. This AI doesn't assess profitability. It analyzes the project's scientific merit, its resource requirements, and its potential to contribute to collective knowledge. Within hours, the AI cross-references her reputation, a fluid metric based on her past contributions, and allocates the necessary energy credits and material access from the collective pool. There is no debt, there is no interest. The only repayment is the successful execution of the project and the sharing of its discoveries. The bank, as a parasitic middleman, has been engineered out of the equation. Now for taxes. We see taxes as a necessary evil to fund public goods, roads, schools, healthcare, infrastructure. But that's because our system separates the private act of earning from the public act of living. In this world, that division doesn't exist. The AI pans across one of the cities, highlighting the silent, gliding transport pods, the lush vertical gardens cleaning the air, the public data streams flowing freely. Who pays for all this? The answer is everyone and no one. The maintenance of the commons is not a tax deducted from your earnings. It's an integrated function of the system itself. The very act of participating in the creative economy, of contributing ideas, of designing new systems, of adding to the noosphere, generates the energy that powers and maintains the society. Think of it like this. Your contribution to a collaborative software project doesn't just build the feature you're working on. It strengthens the entire platform for all users. The tax is simply the inherent expectation of contribution. The society is the project, and living in it is participating in its creation. This naturally leads to the dissolution of exploitation. Exploitation is born from an imbalance of power. One person owns the factory, the land, or the capital, and another must sell their labor to survive. It's a transaction rooted in desperation. But what happens when the factory, the advanced fabrication lab, the bioprinter, the quantum computer is a public utility as accessible as a library? What happens when survival is no longer in question? The simulation presents a stark, split-screen visual. On one side, a 19th century textile mill from our timeline, the air thick with cotton dust, the noise deafening, the faces etched with exhaustion. On the other, a textile lab in the alternate timeline. Natural light floods a spacious workshop, where individuals collaborate on designing smart fabrics that can monitor vital signs. The atmosphere is one of focused passion, not forced labor. People are there because they want to be, driven by curiosity and the joy of creation. No one can compel another to work, because the system guarantees everyone's fundamental needs. The power dynamic that allows one human to exploit another has been completely dismantled at its source. The cascading consequences of this are profound, rewriting our very psychological DNA. The concept of debt, a shadow that looms over generations in our world, simply ceases to exist. The shame of financial failure, the constant gnawing anxiety of making rent, the soul-crushing weight of a mortgage, all gone. This frees up an almost unimaginable amount of human mental and emotional bandwidth, redirecting it from survival to creation, from fear to exploration. The social fabric is rewoven. Class structures built on the accumulation of wealth crumble. Your value to society is no longer measured by your bank account, but by the quality of the ideas you share and the beauty of the things you help create. But as we watch this frictionless society of creators thrive, a fundamental question remains. If the grand projects and creative endeavors are handled this way, what about the basics? What about the simple, non-negotiable needs of every single person? A roof over their head, food on their plate, clean water to drink. How does this system ensure that the very foundation of human dignity is met for everyone, automatically and without question? That's where the network's most elegant and humane protocol comes into play, the automatic distribution of essential resources. Automatic distribution of essential resources is the system's quiet, beating heart, the invisible infrastructure that makes the entire creative economy possible. If the noosphere is the brain, this network is the circulatory system, delivering life's non-negotiables to every single cell of the social body, silently and without fail. It's the ultimate answer to the question we just posed. How do you guarantee basic dignity? You don't make it a goal, you make it an axiom. You build it into the very code of civilization. The AI simulation takes us into a home, not one of opulent luxury, but of elegant sufficiency. It's morning. There's no frantic rush, no anxiety about what to make for breakfast. In the kitchen, a sleek, integrated panel glows. A family member speaks a simple request for a meal, and the system cross-references their nutritional needs, their preferences, and the available local biomass. Minutes later, a compartment slides open. Inside are perfectly ripe fruits, still cool from the atmospheric condenser, and a warm, protein-rich flatbread, synthesized just moments before in a local community fabrication hub. The smell is of real, wholesome food, not preservatives. There are no grocery stores, no checkout lines, no panicked trips after work. The concept of a food desert is a historical absurdity. The system doesn't just prevent hunger, it makes optimal nutrition an effortless, ambient part of life itself. It's a butterfly effect of a different kind. By removing the daily struggle for sustenance, you free up trillions of hours of human thought and energy for higher pursuits. This principle extends to shelter. In our timeline, a home is the single largest and most stressful financial burden most people will ever undertake. It's a source of debt, a symbol of status, and a point of extreme vulnerability. In this alternate present, housing is a utility, The simulation shows us sprawling urban landscapes that look more like integrated ecosystems than concrete jungles. The buildings are modular, constructed from self-healing biopolymers and designed to be reconfigured. When a family grows or a person decides to live alone, they don't enter a brutal real estate market. They submit a request to the network. The AI, acting as a planetary-scale housing coordinator, analyzes living patterns, resource availability, and personal needs to allocate a suitable space. There is no rent. There is no mortgage. The very idea of homelessness is incomprehensible, a ghost of a past timeline built on artificial scarcity and exclusion. The feeling isn't one of ownership, but of belonging. Your home is not a possession you must defend, but a safe harbor the world provides for you. Of course, the immediate question from our perspective is, what stops people from being greedy? What prevents waste? The answer is twofold: intelligent design and a profound psychological shift. The distribution network is a masterpiece of predictive logistics. It knows with astonishing accuracy the resource needs of every community and individual. It doesn't overproduce. It optimizes. But more importantly, the very impulse to hoard withers and dies in a world of true abundance. Why would you stockpile food when you know, with absolute certainty, that a perfect meal is always just moments away? Why would you demand a larger home than you need when the status associated with it is meaningless and comfort is guaranteed? The anxiety of not having enough is a scar from our timeline's history of scarcity. Without that wound, the psychological armor of greed is never forged. People take what they need because they trust the system to provide it, always. This automated foundation of care is the point of divergence that redefines human value itself. In our world, your ability to secure food and shelter is often tied to your economic productivity. If you can't earn a living, you risk losing both. This system severs that brutal connection forever. It declares that the right to live, to be safe, to be fed, is not something you earn. It is your birthright. It is unconditional. But when a system is this efficient, this caring, this humane, is it still just an economy? Or has it evolved into something more? By removing fear and desperation from the equation of survival, the entire purpose of societal organization shifts from control and accumulation to something far more profound. It becomes an active expression of a collective belief that every life has inherent worth, and that is the philosophical gateway to our final exploration, the economy as an extension of love and generosity. The economy as an extension of love and generosity is where our simulation reaches its philosophical apex, the ultimate consequence of a world without scarcity. It's a concept that, from our perspective, sounds almost impossibly idealistic. We're conditioned to see economies as systems of competition, of winners and losers, of cold, hard numbers on a balance sheet. But when you strip away the desperation for survival, as this alternate timeline has done, what's left to drive human interaction? The AI simulation shows us the answer isn't a void. It's a profound reorientation toward the very things our economy so often penalizes: empathy, connection, and the innate human desire to give. This isn't an economy of transactions. It's an economy of relationships. Think about it for a moment. In our world, generosity is an exception, a charitable act performed outside the main economic system. You work your job, pay your bills, and then, if you have surplus time or money, you might donate or volunteer. Here, that dynamic is completely inverted. Generosity isn't the exception, it's the engine. The simulation visualizes a community hub that looks less like a stock exchange and more like a vibrant open-air festival. There are no price tags, no cash registers. A master woodworker is showing a group of young people how to craft a chair, not for a fee, but for the joy of passing on her skill. A musician is composing a symphony with a collective of strangers online, their only compensation the shared beauty of the final piece. A bioengineer releases a new seed modification that allows fruit to grow in slightly arid conditions, not for a patent, but as a gift to the global network. The currency here is not money, but contribution. The wealth is not what you accumulate, but what you give away. This is the butterfly effect of unconditional support. When people are secure, they don't retreat into selfishness. They open up, they create, they share. This system works because the motivations have been fundamentally rewired. The drive for status, which in our timeline is so often tied to material wealth, is now linked to one's creative and social contributions. You are rich in this world if you are known for your wisdom, for your art, for your willingness to help, for the problems you solve. The AI projects a social interface, a part of the noosphere, where individuals have a resonance score. It's not a ranking, but a beautiful fractal-like visualization of their positive impact, the ideas they've shared, the people they've taught, the projects they've helped flourish. It's a society that has monetized not labor, but love, not the romantic kind, but agape, the profound, unconditional care for the well-being of the whole. The automatic distribution of resources is the system's baseline expression of this love. The creative and collaborative economy is how humans actively participate in it. It's the ultimate non-zero-sum game, where helping someone else succeed directly enriches your own life and the entire system. Exploitation becomes a logical impossibility because there is nothing to gain from it. Taking from another would be like a lung refusing to share oxygen with the heart, a self-defeating act of madness. And so, our journey through this alternate timeline comes to a close. We have stepped out of the Garden of Eden and are back in our own reality, a world shaped by scarcity, competition, and the anxieties they breed. This simulation wasn't a prophecy or a perfect utopia. It was a thought experiment, a mirror held up to our own civilization to show that the way things are is not the only way they could be. The systems we live under, the economic pressures we feel, the very notion that human worth must be earned, these are not laws of nature. They are choices we have made, a single path taken from a near infinite number of points of divergence. This exploration shows us that a single foundational shift, the elimination of scarcity, could create cascading consequences that would redefine what it means to be human. It leaves us with a powerful and perhaps unsettling question. What parts of our own humanity are being suppressed by the economy we live in today? What detail or consequence of this alternate timeline, this economy of Eden, resonated with you the most? Share your thoughts in the comments below. If you're fascinated by these journeys into what could have been, be sure to subscribe and hit the notification bell. Together, we'll keep challenging the present by exploring the pasts that never were, right here on How Would It Be by AI.